working on now is Chapter 7, Parallelograms and Polygons, so if you could turn to that one and we'll start there. Let's go ahead and start up top, and we're going to talk about parallelograms. And so one thing that we need to know is that if you have quadrilaterals, their angles do not equal 180. Quadrilaterals all equal 360. When you have parallelograms, remember you have 4 rules. Rule number 1 is that opposite sides are equal. Rule number 2, opposite angles are equal. Rule number 3, adjacent angles equal 180, so those are angles that are next to each other. And rule number 4 is that the diagonals bisect each other, so they cut each other in half. Okay, and then we also have some other special shapes. We have rectangles, and remember a rectangle is a type of parallelogram, and so it has rules 1 through 4 that are the same. But then rule 5, which is diagonals are congruent. So what happens here is when you have a rectangle, because the diagonals are congruent, all of those are congruent because they've been cut in half. The next shape we have is a rhombus. And a rhombus has 4 equal sides. I guess I should say what a rectangle is. And a rectangle has 4 equal angles. And those angles all happen to be right angles. And a rhombus, because a rhombus is a parallelogram, 1 through 4 still apply, but it has 2 additional rules. Rule number 5 is that the diagonals, oh, I can't spell diagonals. The diagonals are perpendicular, so they make right angles in the center. Right here, that'd be a right angle if it was a rhombus. And then the diagonals bisect angles. So not only do they bisect each other, but the angles get cut in half too. And then the last thing we have is we have a squares. And remember squares, oh, it's on a crooked line, is 4 equal sides and angles. And so that means every rule that exists applies for it, because a square, remember we talked about a square being the baby of a rectangle and rhombus, so it has all those things. Okay, and then we also had some other shapes. We had, let's try and split this up so we don't run out of space. So that's the whole thing. So I drew a line right about there, maybe a quarter or a third of the way. And we're going to split this in half or into thirds. And so we have is a trapezoid. And remember, this is what a trapezoid looks like. And the important thing to know about a trapezoid is that these angles equal 180. And these angles over here equal 180. Okay. Then you had a special trapezoid called an isosceles trapezoid. And an isosceles trapezoid is kind of like an isosceles triangle, where an isosceles triangle has 2 equal sides. An isosceles trapezoid has 2 equal legs. So the legs are equal. And if you have equal legs, and you have equal angles, so this angle is equal to this angle, and this obtuse angle is equal to this obtuse angle. And then the last shape we have with 4 sides is kite. And remember, with a kite, the sides next to each other are congruent, but then there's one set of opposite angles that is also congruent. And so that's a kite. We also dealt with something else with the trapezoid. We did a mid-segment of a trapezoid. And so here's my trapezoid, and this is my mid-segment. Remember, if this is the top is A, the bottom's B, the mid-segments is X. Remember, you need 2 mid-segments to make the top and bottom. So you need 2 mid-segments to make the top and bottom. Oh, we got some lag here. Hold on. Oh, there we go. Okay, and then now we're dealing with polygons, and then we just need to make sure we remember the numbers. A pentagon is 5. A hexagon has an X in it, so it's 6. heptagon is 7, octagon is 8, nonagon is 9, decagon is 10, and then the last one we have is a dodeca, and a dodeca is 12. So remember, you have to have those. And then when we had these, there was 3 things we did. We did the sum, and that's an important one. If you ever see sum, you do sum, which was n minus 2 times 180. We did each interior. So if you see something that says each interior, it's the sum divided by n. So it's n minus 2 times 180 divided by n. And then the last one we did was exterior. And remember, exterior, this is when Riley and Alexia walked around the table. And when they walked around, any table they walked around, they went 360 degrees. So exterior angle is equal to 360. So to find one exterior angle, you do 360 divided by n. So there was a lot of things in this section, so you might have to go back and look at your rules, but you have everything that's the most important here, so you should be good for your exam.